The Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WynnBET. WynnBET is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WynnBET has what you need to win. Sign up today and bet $100 and get $100 at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. State restrictions apply. And we're also brought to you by the College Basketball Experience. March Madness is heating up, and you need to subscribe to the College Basketball Experience. It's awesome, baby. And welcome in to the Fantasy Football Podcast presented by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I'm your host, Justin Bruni. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Andrew TD King. Rob, how we doing, sir?
Fantastic, man. When the intro pops in like that and I first see my face, I feel like I should be like smoking a pipe or like something cool that people first see me, or maybe do the oh my God, what's the dude's name who does the slide in on Monday Night Footballs? Is it Monday night or Sunday
Collinsworth?
night? Yeah, Collinsworth. Thank you.
Chris Collinsworth.
Yeah, I feel like I should do like a slide in, something cool, right? But no, it just pops up. Here I am fucking looking on my phone. So let's just get into it.
I like the cigar idea though. Maybe the cigar or the tobacco pipe with maybe a monocle and a top hat. I think
that's right. Monopoly Man style.
Yeah, I think exactly. But Monopoly Man with some edge, like Monopoly Man meets like
maybe
the
with
most
like
interesting
the old school Nelly scar with the fucking
little Band-Aid.
The Band-Aid there, yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I've seen shit,
Yeah. Like the most interesting man in the world meets the Monopoly Man, meets the Peanut Man. If you get the pimp cane going as well. Tonight we are going to be covering our most exposed quarterbacks and tight ends on Underdog. We've been playing the big board. We've been drafting quite a bit. I'm up to 17. How about you?
Oh, let me pull it up here right now. I think I have 18. Yes, I have 18 big boards.
Rob with the lead, and with the narrow edge there. You were behind for a bit. You were like 5 to 7 behind there for a minute.
Yes, I have been doing a little research myself on other people doing live streams of the big board, jumping, inserting myself into their conversations, just kind of versing myself with how other people are feeling about the big board, about certain positions, about the draft itself. So, I did one last night, with somebody I started following on YouTube. And so I'm now it's really starting to click in. I'm going to start doing more and more, every week.
All right, right on. While you brought up research, we definitely want to cover some recent news, break into some of the updates around the NFL. First up, I know that you were pretty excited about this one because you kind of hit the headline before it reached the papers. Was Travis Etienne potentially not being favored at that ADP? Doug Peterson talking about having 2 to 3 guys, to offer a firm role for the running backs on his roster. You were saying to avoid that Etienne at his ADP. I've been picking him up, but I've also been stacking him quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, and I put this question out on Twitter and I had a couple people respond back, and, everyone kind of had the same sentiment of 30 is probably a little too high for the ADP, right? That's definitely going to probably come down if they're going to introduce another 1 to 2, because he actually said he wants a possible rotation of 2 to 3 to 4 running backs.
I definitely caught the number 4 in there too. Yeah. And this little headline that I read, it was only 2 to 3. They're doing their readers a disservice.
It's absurd. Now again, like, is that just coach talk? Sure. We are again in the beginning of March, so can't really read in too much to it, but it is a little alarming, especially at the ADP. So I expect it to fall. And I'll tell you, once it does fall and settles in, hopefully somewhere around maybe 42-ish, 40. I mean, I could see it dropping 10 to 12, a full round. I would probably be more of a buyer at that point. I do like ETN. It's more or less for me about his ADP. So I definitely think that this will hurt. It's unfortunate for ETN because, again, he was good. But, yeah, I mean, I read this a couple of different spots a few weeks ago. And, unfortunately, it's coming through to fruition right now.
I mean, we've seen what Doug Peterson can do with the running back position. Let's just hope that, ETN, at least for my sake, for all the shares that I have, he can, shine in the group, whatever that group will consist of. I do know that they re-signed JaMychal Hasty. You and I had kind of bantered a little bit back and forth about potentially Jerick McKinnon. That would be kind of interesting. And, it's probably not likely, to the point that you had made. But, there's not really any other places like you and I discussed also other than Kansas City. So it's just kind of like a dark horse type of candidate. But, what would you think if they added like David Montgomery?
I mean, honestly, it's not a bad for Dave Montgomery. It'd be fantastic. For ETN, David Montgomery is still a decent running back, so I think that would not be good for him. I definitely think that he would probably see somewhere in the ballpark of a maybe 65-ish, 70-ish% target or shares of the workload there. So is that good for him? Is that bad for him? It's unforeseen, but he did have a good, towards the end of the year, he was running the ball very well, very efficiently. I believe he was really close to 5 yards a carry. So does he need a lot of work to, provide value? Not a ton. I would like to see him get more passing down work. That obviously I think is a game by game kind of script right there. So I think Montgomery would be an okay thing. I would really hate if they went and, made a conscious effort to get one of these, good rookie running backs that are coming out. I think that would hurt him ultimately the most.
Yeah, and like you had also mentioned, there's no connection between this regime and Travis Etienne.
That's always a problem.
That's always been an issue in the past. No loyalty there, especially in the NFL. It's a mean streets. That's for sure. Just look at the franchise tag. It's just a terrible proposition. Etienne, I don't hate the ADP, but I think that we are going to be able to get him at better value going forward. So until we see how this situation unfolds, you may want to be a little bit more hesitant, when drafting him in the earlier rounds. This next guy up, Dalton Schultz, looks like it's being reported that there is little momentum towards Dalton Schultz returning to the Cowboys. We had peeped this on our last episode. I had grabbed him in one of our drafts. I'm excited about him. He's definitely going to be coming up in the later discussions as well for top exposure tight ends. He's my top 2 guy. Where are some landing spots that you could see for Dalton Schultz? I know that we've discussed it before, but where's your gut telling you he's going to land? Like what's that one team that you feel he has the strongest chance to go to?
Man, that's a really good question. I think a good suitor for him is the Saints. Again, Juwan Johnson was good last year, but how good is he actually? I think he was more fluky that he got a couple of those touchdowns, right? So that would be a good.
He had a streak at one point. I think of like 5 out of 6 or something like that.
Yeah, and he scored multiple touchdowns in multiple games. So I think that would be a good suitor for him. I think he could flourish there. Another one, and it depends on really what they do with their current tight end, but it just they hardly ever use him. Would be the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins would be a good landing spot for him if they decide to use the tight end as they should be used. Mike Gesicki is no slouch, but they hardly ever used him. They wanted to keep him in there for blocking purposes. So, so that's a hard one. But I mean, really, there's none that truly jump out to me outside of the Saints that I think would be, super beneficial. Maybe the Texans, maybe the Bears too, but I like Cole Kmet more than the average Bear. So get that, Bear. Thank you.
I like that.
What about you? I mean, where do you think that he would go that for fantasy purposes? Where would you like to see him go? Let's put that question out there.
I mean, I do think that the NFC North is super thirsty. We've talked about that before. I think Carolina could be a nice destination. I think if you're Carolina and you make a move like that, I think that you instantly kind of like just move yourself up a little bit incrementally in the quarterback free agency market, just because I think you just need another weapon there. They have plenty of cap, so I think that would be a decent move. And they've been really hungry for the position for quite some time. So I would definitely like to see him in maybe Carolina or one of those hungry NFC North teams. Wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if he went to the Packers. I'm not a big Bob Tunyon advocate. I feel like they need to upgrade at the position.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, and that might help Aaron Rodgers make that decision to stay as well. I think Aaron Rodgers, when he does come back, sidebar here, I think that he's going to have, if he does come back there, I think he's going to have a list of demands and say, listen, you have me for whatever 2 years, whatever his case may be. I think he's going to have some sort of demand in there of like, if we're going to do this, let's do this right before I just send off and we just sucked 2 more years, right? Like, so I think there's going to be a list that he brings.
I think that Aaron Jones probably wished that they did that last year for him. He's like, if we're going to do this restructuring, let's have a talk first about AJ Dillon and myself. This next guy up, Dalvin Cook, could be a cap casualty. His shoulder surgery is complicating the idea of releasing him. Apparently, based off of the date that he has set up for the surgery is going to conflict with the deadline for them to essentially, save the most amount of money. It could be anywhere from a $2 million penalty to a $7.9 million penalty if they were to cut him. But his shoulder surgery is going to complicate the issue. Not to, get too off track and just like go through the conspiracy theories of where he's going to land, but do you see him back in a Vikings uniform next season? Keep it simple.
Yeah, I do. I think maybe there's a restructuring coming where it's going to be more of a friendly deal, but I think Dalvin understands that that's probably his best fit. They already know, what he likes to do, how he plays, his style. I don't think he goes anywhere and gets a massive deal. He's older, and this isn't the first time that they want to clean up that shoulder, right? So I also don't think that with the shoulder injury that it's something that they think he's not going to necessarily be valuable or useful. Because again, this is not the first time that this procedure is happening. They've cleaned the shoulder up before. So I think he's still going to be with Vikings, and I still think he can be valuable, in fantasy football. And again, like they may bring somebody in, but I think he's the lead dog, and he maybe has one more year there, and then he's probably out.
Bring back Jerick McKinnon. We were just talking about him.
That'd be interesting. I wouldn't hate that.
Where it all started.
Yeah. Interesting.
Probably an offense that could use his skill set. I would hope to see him back because I feel like his usage would probably be, more up in the air. He could get it all cleaned up, and then he could, take a team-friendly type of contract, go to one of the big hitters, go jump in a prolific offense like the Bills or the Chiefs. That would be super interesting.
Yep.
Next up, we got, DeAndre Hopkins and Brandon Cooks. They feel like the likely candidates to land in New England. Who would you rather see land in New England for the sake of fantasy? Like, I don't know if I want it to be DeAndre Hopkins, to be perfectly honest with you. I think Brandon Cooks probably fits that offense, better.
Can I say neither?
I think we both want neither.
Yeah, I don't want either one of these guys there. I guess if I have to sacrifice one for fantasy purposes, it's Brandon Cooks. That's how I feel about it. I feel like we're sacrificing one of them to them because I'm not a Mac Jones guy. I think he's decent, but he's not going to make one of these guys a star. I don't care what anybody says. It's just not going to happen. Now, Hopkins would be interesting due to the fact that they just brought in Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien has already worked with Hopkins. So there's that, that connection already. I don't know if I could really call it a connection or not. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins makes plays himself, right? Bill O'Brien isn't out there making DeAndre Hopkins make those catches. So, take that for a grain of salt there. But I do think, Hopkins would probably be the best fit there, but I don't want to see either one of them in a Patriots uniform.
Do you think the Patriots could be a dark horse for a free agency QB?
No, I don't think that they're willing to submit that they picked a quarterback that they no longer want. I think Bill Belichick's pride does not allow that currently.
That's true. And they do have Bailey Zappi, so they're probably fine.
Yeah. I mean, Bailey Zappi's good for at least 4 games, right?
Not bad. Or they could just, split touches like they were doing at one point. Just like, all right, your turn, my turn. Tag, you're it.
Yep.
Speaking of tag, Evan Ingram was franchise tagged by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stock up or stock down with the tag, Andrew?
Up. Definitely up. This is, I mean, again, we saw what he did in New York. He is much better here. He came down to Jacksonville, found his hands again, and is flourishing in this offense. I think this is the best spot for him. I'm glad that he is staying here. I think that really helps Trevor Lawrence as well. For anybody who has Trevor Lawrence in Dynasty or is looking to pair Trevor Lawrence in Underdog, for stacking purposes, outside of, being able to only get one of Ridley or Kirk, Evan Ingram's the best stacking option for Lawrence. So I love that he's staying here. I think he's going to have another killer year. Maybe not as high up as he finished this year. Probably, I say he finishes as a top 8 somewhere in there. But he was really good, and they I don't want to say force fed him, but there were some games that they made it a point to target him, and that's good in fantasy. I like his value currently, so I think it's a great landing spot as in staying in Jacksonville.
Well, specifically speaking to best ball, I think it's great news because it's just something concrete. We were talking not just days ago about him potentially going to this team, to that team. Oh, Seattle, staying with Jacksonville, whatever. So I think it's a great situation for best ball. You just get a little bit more clarity, and it gives you that confidence that when you do draft Lawrence, you can stack him up with another late round target.
I actually just did it last night when I was doing this draft. I took Hurts, and then again, you
Mhm.
got to do a couple of different strategies, but I took Hurts early, and then took Lawrence, middle rounds, and also paired both of the tight ends with them, and those were the only pairs I had. So I'm
Nice.
glad I did it last night because I do think Evan Ingham's stock may rise a little bit now that the uncertainty is no longer swirling around him.
Yeah, absolutely love it. All right, that wraps up some of the recent news. We're going to hit a quick word from our sponsors, and then we're going to get to our most exposed tight ends and quarterbacks and Underdog. WynnBET is the official online sportsbook of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. WynnBET is active in a bunch of states, and there are tons of ways to win, including live betting and same-game parlays, aka WynnBET's Build Your Own Bet. March Madness is almost here, and plus there are plenty of ways to win, including the NBA, the NHL, and XFL. Sign up today to receive a special offer. Bet $100, get $100. Limited estate availability. And of course, for our DGens only, if you hit the biggest long shot parlay of the week, you get a $1,000 free credit. There's so much to choose from, and all you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/wynnbet. So they know that we sent you. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. Offer subject to change, terms and conditions at wynnbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-522-4700.
Now, let's talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. The SGPN merch store continues to add new items to the store every single day. Head over to store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com to get your favorite shirts, hats, sweats, and hoodies. They always like us to talk about a personal favorite item. I think the whole store is just my personal favorite. I go through there and I'm like, man, I got paid this much this month. If I do this and I'm, minus the 7, I can buy this much shit. And yeah, so I'm constantly buying. So everything in there is awesome. I've gotten gifts from my family there too. So it's great. And right now they're actually running a promo just in time for March, 10% off when you spend more than $40 and use the code Madness. Again, that is 10% off your order of $40 or more when you use the code Madness. Go check it out now.
Another, just shameless plug to the merch store. We have this new product out. It's called the First Half Unders t-shirt. Now, if you're familiar with SGPN, you'll know that I work on fantasy football. I work on fantasy hockey. I've done some fantasy basketball. I do not bet on college basketball whatsoever. Andrew, I hit a 3-leg first half under.
Oh, you're going early.
just because of this damn t-shirt. Because all you guys are posting about this t-shirt, and I kept just getting these little nudges. So $25 made me $163. I don't even know the teams I bet on, bud. I have no clue. You know what I did?
You buy a shirt?
I'm gonna buy like 4 of these shirts. What are you talking about? Are you kidding me?
Oh my god, that is awesome, man! I love it. You're starting early. Oh man, that is music to my ears, man.
all I did was I moved the tab over to the first half totals. I went to the biggest numbers and slammed the unders. That's it. Nothing special.
Solid plan.
Thank you, merch store. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Andrew. Everybody, sharing out all the goodness on the social media about our merch store. I just thought that was a nice little anecdote to go on with that. So, not saying that there are winners and picks to be found, in the merch store, but there are some little nudges. There are some very healthy suggestions, let's say. And I've got a nice little stack there. It's a little early still. I might be able to get back in there.
Oh my god, man, that is awesome. I love that you're going in before. The rule is all 36 first half unders in March Madness. I love that you're doing it now and you won a parlay. That's just awesome, man. You know what? You inspire me. Tomorrow, I ride.
All right, let's go. I mean, it's supposed to be like what, the conference championships or something, right? That's what it is. So yeah, it's kind of like the same thing. The tensions are tight, the atmosphere is rough and ragged. We're trying to go out there.
Get that out on Twitter. Let the people know that they can get in early.
I was motivated to check it because like before we had started, I had hit 2 of the picks. So didn't want to get on there too early. Didn't want to jinx myself. I am a how you tie your shoes production type of player. I get all the little things out of the way. All right. Speaking of little things out of the way, we got that nice little pitch there to the merch store. Go jump on there. Use that code. Was it Madness? Yeah. Use Madness to get 10% off. Good stuff over there. All right. Let's jump into our most exposed players at quarterback and tight end on Underdog. Do you want to start with tight ends or quarterbacks? Up to you.
Let's do the guys that really stick their nose in the ground. Let's go with the tight ends.
Right. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. We'll just go every other first 5 or 6 because I know that that fifth guy is usually tied. My first man up, Gerald Everett, getting a very friendly ADP on Gerald Everett right now. He's being drafted around ADP 164. I'm not sure if you know what round that is. I might be able to pull up one of my boards here.
Oh boy, 164. That has to be somewhere down in probably the
13, 14.
Yeah, I'd say 14 probably. Yeah.
Somewhere in that range. I mean, honestly, like your top 10 picks are pretty important. And I know that you and I have gone back and forth on this. Like once you get past like rounds like 10 or 11, you can pretty much do whatever you want with the ADP. I've moved him up the board. I've got him at, immense value. He's coming off the board. His position rank is tight end 19. He feels like someone to me that can still provide you top 10 tight end numbers. So he feels like a very good value right now at his ADP. I have him out of 17 drafts, I have 6 shares. So 35%, $60 out of 170 right now. What do you think? Good or bad buy?
I think that's fine. Yeah. So again, especially where he's going, I think that is perfectly fine. I think that we're going to find that a lot of our tight ends are towards the later halves. Just drafting with you a couple times. I think outside of maybe Hawkinson, that's probably going to be one of your guys. Outside of that, there's probably going to be a lot of later round guys that we tend to gravitate towards.
And we've talked about him being a potential cap casualty. It sounds like that may be more likely. The team has discussed that, Keenan Allen leaving is a hope and a prayer for other teams. So if that's the case, then could be Gerald Everett on the way out the door. They might feel comfortable with that. A 3-man tandem of Allen, Palmer, and Mike Williams. So they may feel comfortable letting him walk. I feel pretty good because, again, like there's a very strong market for tight end on free agency, or if he were to be traded, I feel like he would be in a good situation either way. This is a top year for him. He had 87 targets, 58 catches, over 500 receiving yards, a career season. I always feel like every time I see him, like, why isn't this guy being used enough? He's almost, like the size and build of him. He's like a wide receiver practically.
Yeah, he's a big dude, and they utilized him pretty well last year. So I hope he stays there. I think he can still contribute with other teams, but there's always that learning curve, right? So there is a little bit of uncertainty, but again, he's not costing you a ton right now. So I think that's still a fine buy.
Who's your first man up?
Isaiah Likely.
Okay.
I tend to to lean to him because he flashed last year in small increments. He didn't do as well as I thought he would do when Mark Andrews was out. Kind of weird situation though. No Lamar Jackson, so I don't really hold that against him at all. But I do like him a lot. And the wide receiver room there is not very good. They have Rashad Bateman, who got hurt last year, and then a bunch of just no-name dudes, right? Like a bunch of guys that just make a little contribution week in and week out, and that's about it. So Isaiah Likely, honestly, they could convert him to a wide receiver and he would do just as well. So I like his athleticism. I like the position. I really hope that Jackson stays there. But if not, I still think he can be a contributor with Jackson gone, with Andrews healthy again. And I currently have 22%. That's my exposure to him is 22%.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I have him at 11%. So he has 2 out of 17 shares for me. So I've taken some shots at him with my last couple of picks. ADP 196, tight end 25. So you're probably getting him, like probably 17 to 18, somewhere in that range. If maybe a little bit deeper, if your draft is being really patient on tight end, and some of those names are sticking around the board a little bit longer than they should.
Did you say his ADP?
His ADP was 196.
Yeah. So I'm as you can see, I'm drafting him way late.
Way late. Yeah, no, he's a very good value. Like I said, I've got a couple of shares myself. So I don't hate it. And what we did see from him, it looked productive. Like he looked like an NFL tight end. Feels like year 2 he could make a very good jump. So I'm with you on the Isaiah Likely pick for sure. My next guy up, we already talked about him, was Dalton Schultz. Looks like he could be on the move. What do you think about Dalton Schultz potentially going to your Commandos?
I think it's okay, but honestly, I don't really feel the need to go pay a guy that's good but not great.
Mhm.
I think I'd rather just have them work on the rookies that they have. They actually have two, Cole Turner and John Bates are
John
two
Bates.
tight ends that are good at blocking and have
Dude,
good hands. They're not.
John Bates John Bates is a mammoth of a human,
Oh
all
yeah,
right?
they're
That
both
guy
huge.
that guy could fight the dude from Game of Thrones, the
Oh,
fucking
the
I was
Hound.
not the out I was
Oh,
saying
you're
the
talking
Hound,
about
but the
the
mammoth.
Mountain.
What's that guy's name? The big
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. It's not Mountain. It's
It is the Mountain.
is it the Mountain?
It is the Mountain. Yeah, it's the Hound's brother. It's the Hound
Yeah,
of the Mountain.
yeah. Great fight scene
Oh,
at the
great.
end of the
It's
show.
fantastic,
Good fight
brothers
scene.
just absolutely murdering each other, literally.
Yeah,
No,
Cain and Abel, baby.
John yeah, exactly. John Bates is he's a massive dude. Like, I
He
would
is.
love for him to get regular usage, but I feel like that situation is like you have too many cooks in the kitchen type of thing. Like, like you got too many guys like really trying to get like that one spot, and they're all just going to eat out of each other's workload.
Yeah, the other issue is Logan Thomas is still there. Now he could be a cap casualty. He does hold a
Mhm,
little bit more cap value than anybody else. So we'll
mhm.
see what happens with him. I actually like Logan Thomas. Sucks that he keeps getting injured because that dude could run some gimmick plays and actually throw the ball since he was a
Right.
converted quarterback from Virginia Tech. So they do have a 3-man carousel of tight ends there. And honestly,
Mhm.
I'd rather just have them work on them while they're on friendly deals outside of Logan Thomas.
Sure.
I think it would be okay, but I don't feel the need for the Commanders to go and do that.
I just feel like there's a lot of excitement out there for Commander fans that like Eric Bieniemy is gonna, transport that Chiefs offense to DC. Like, does that mean like they're gonna like pay out for a tight end? Are they gonna, maybe shop for Dalton Schultz, go after like a Darren Waller? Are they gonna try to find themselves the next Tyreek Hill? It just feels like a lot of people are kind of trying to, or they're just trying to make those connections, right? So I don't know. I feel like Dalton Schultz could kind of fit that mold, but um, not Travis Kelce. He would be a lower A dot. He's not going to break down the seams or anything like that, but could be a good target for an upcoming quarterback if they ride with Sam Howell as well.
Mhm.
Who is your next man up?
Yeah, so I have 3 guys all tied at 22%. This is the next man up, is Noah
Mm,
Fant for me. Again,
mm,
a dude that I keep grabbing just late. He's a
mm,
starting tight end as of right now. Was okay last year, had some usable weeks. He's not my first tight end ever. He's normally at least my second, if not my third.
mm.
So I'm okay with taking them there. And again, I have 22% of him. He's a good tight end, and I don't understand why. There's a few tight ends that go before him that I just can't wrap my head around why. And do I think he's going to be on the Seahawks this year? Probably, but could I see him move as well? Definitely. I would love Fant to go to the Packers. I think he
Mm.
fits him perfectly there, and he's a would be an awesome weapon for Aaron Rodgers.
Big body target for sure. He likes those big body targets down in the red zone. That's a fact. Yeah, I mean, I like Noah Fant. Have you grabbed yourself a fair amount of Geno with that as well?
I haven't because I'm
Okay.
of the thought that Geno's not there.
Okay, interesting, interesting. We'll get to that when we get over to the quarterbacks because I want to ask you about stacking, specifically because my next man up is Mr. T.J. Hawkinson. I've been drafting him at ADP 42. It's probably a little bit higher than a lot of the tight end targets, but getting him after getting him after George Kittle seems like just robbery to me right now. But you can get him after George Kittle, after Mark Andrews. I've gotten him after even Darren Waller and Kyle Pitts. The tight end market is just so funky because if you get in these drafts and you're drafting with people that have been doing a lot of them, they're going to divert from the norms, and you're going to be able to pick up a higher end player at value, which I see in TJ Hawkinson. You and I have discussed about him before. He should be like that second top target in this offense the way things look right now. Even if they go and they become a buyer, in free agency, it still feels like, or even the draft, it still feels like what we saw there. He's going to be a priority for Kirk Cousins and the playbook.
Yep. And actually, Hawkinson supplanted Kittle in the ADP now. Hawkinson's at 42, Kittle's at 47. So he's going
We
in front
we
of him.
just did a draft with the bosses, and Kittle went ahead of Hawk.
Yeah, but in the actual ADP, he is ahead of him.
Mhm,
And so, fun fact here, just I look at established to run a lot for stats, and
mhm,
they have their rankings here, and I was just noticing that he is only one of 3 tight ends currently in the top 11 that have a positive delta, meaning that they have him ranked better than where he's actually going.
Mhm.
The other two are Kittle and Dallas Goedert. Everybody else
Yeah.
has a negative delta, so they're at a worse value than what established a run gives them.
Very
So
good, very good. Yeah, I think that Dallas Goedert is an awesome value for what he's going at. I feel like he's at like tight end 5 potentially. You're getting him again later than some of those other guys, and he's going to be in a very good offense that was just in the Super Bowl. So,
mhm.
yeah, definitely some very good later picks here. Like I said, me and Andrew both love Hawkinson this season.
Yep.
When we get over to the quarterbacks, I'll be even more excited to explain why I like him. Who is your next man up? Your third tight end?
Third guy that I have tied for my top most exposed tight end, and I'm ready to be hurt again, is Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts. All right, getting down. I mean, it
I
feels
just
like they're going
can't.
to buy a quarterback.
Yeah, I think so. And honestly, like the more I read about it, the more I think it's going to be Lamar Jackson. I think they're going to throw
Damn.
money his way. And damn, if I have a couple teams that I've purposely made sure I stacked Jackson and Pitts on, just so I can make sure I have that value before it does happen, if
I
it
think
happens.
I think you did that with us in the last
Yes,
draft.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I'm making sure that I do that now before the ADP skyrockets for both of them. But
I don't hate it.
Kyle Pitts is awesome, right? Like he's great. Like last year, they just didn't use him correctly, and that is a
Mhm,
worry to me. But it is in the 6th round, that I'm typically drafting him.
mhm.
I try to make sure I do a stack with it. I don't really want a ton of Kyle Pitts without a stack. Some is fine, but not a ton. And man, he's just so good. He's just really good, and it gets me so excited to watch. And I really hope that the Falcons can make it a conscious effort to get him the ball more, especially in high value targeted areas inside,
Mhm.
the 10-yard line. So like I said, I'm ready to be hurt again. And if he breaks my heart one more time, I'll still be on him next year because it's Kyle Pitts and he's fucking good.
He has all the criteria and the build to be a top 5 tight end. You really can't hate it, and especially in round 6 where you're getting him, where you're seeing some of the other top tight ends go for his age and experience, I think it's super appropriate.
Pitts went to Florida, right?
Yes.
Am I remembering that correct?
Yep.
So, just interesting thought here. What if they go draft Anthony Richardson?
I don't think that's gonna work.
You don't
I
think so?
mean I mean, first off,
It works for Joe Burrow and
Pitts
Jamar
was there
Chase.
what? Pitts was there what? 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
2, yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know. I have no idea what Anthony Richardson was doing at that time. I have no idea if there's a connection there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got nothing. Blind spot.
Yeah.
Would be interesting. I mean,
Mhm.
poor man's Lamar Jackson. So,
Yeah, it's true.
all right. My next guy up is Mike Gesicki. Again, another positive ROI wild card, kind of like a Gerald Everett. Yeah, I guess I don't have any other wild cards that high up on the list. I was looking for another example. But I like Gesicki. I've talked about him potentially going to the Panthers, the Giants, maybe even a contender like a Bills or a Chiefs if they want to kind of dip into like that double tight end type of market, get a little bit deeper, shore up, any type of issue if Kelsey were to get hurt, something like that. Just a pass first offense in general. Again, someone I'm getting at a very good ADP, 171, tight end 20. I think you guys are kind of picking up, what we're putting down here as far as targeting tight ends. You shouldn't be, spending top ADP on them based on the value and, the rest of the market. Any places where you'd like to see Mike Gesicki fall?
Uh, so shout out Penn State, first of all. Love Mike Gesicki. Loved watching him
Mhm.
in Penn State. I do think he's a good tight end yet. It's weird. Like he hasn't really been able to showcase himself as a quote unquote elite tight end, right? Like
Mhm.
he has the ability. I saw him in college. It's just I I don't really know. Again, I mean, like he would fit well probably too with the Saints, maybe the
Mhm.
Panthers. If the Panthers are talking about making a splashy picks, at quarterback, maybe Mike Gesicki just needs a new quarterback, outlook here with some guy that
Mhm.
isn't afraid to throw the ball downfield because Mike Gesicki is good at catching the ball downfield along the seam. So you mentioned like just the NFC South in general outside of the Falcons,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of those places make sense. I can't say I really would love. Actually, you know what? If the Giants aren't sold on Daniel Bellinger, I think he would
Oh,
do
yeah.
well with the Giants as well.
Yeah, we've spoke about the Giants making that move before. They're just a team that should be hungry again. Like I don't expect them to go out and try to get Darren Waller, but they should be trying to make some type of move. Maybe even Dalton Schultz.
Yeah.
Who's your next guy up? I'll do one more after that.
Next guy up at 16% exposure is your man, Cole Kmet. Another
Okay.
guy that
Okay.
I'm ready to be hurt by again. He destroyed me last year. I had way too much Cole Kmet. I really believed that the year before what he did was going to be something that that he was going to be able to do last year. They didn't.
Mhm.
Everything looked up for him, right? Like they didn't have a whole lot of pass catchers that were truly good outside of Darnell Mooney. Okay, I'm like, i.e., here's Cole Kmet. You're inserting Justin Fields. Usually, when you insert a quarterback that is not familiar with the system, they lend a helping hand in the tight end.
Mhm.
They didn't do that. I figured that they were going to throw him the ball in the end zone. Sure as hell didn't do that. So everything I thought just went to shit. It was definitely a big miss by me, but still, he's a good tight end because he's athletic and he's going late in drafts. If I'm not mistaken, he is currently going 126. That's fine by me. This is a guy that I don't feel like I really need to stack because I'm not completely sold on the Bears offense. I do like Fields. I do like Mooney, but the offensive play calling was awful last year. I just hated
What are you
everything
talking
about
about?
it.
Their offense was great last year. Their defense was terrible.
Their offense was
They
great
were
towards
in
the
they
end
were
of the
in
season.
Yeah, don't tell me why it was better then and not in the beginning of the season.
Well,
Well,
I
actually,
mean,
I do know why. I do know why. They started doing the run first approach. That was not something that they did in weeks like 1 through 5 or 6. Like it was not in the playbook for Justin Fields to just
yeah,
take off.
they were like,
That
wow, he's good at running. Let's just have him do it
yeah,
all the time.
exactly. But no, dude, they were scoring multiple games over 30 points and they were in these games that they had no business being involved in. Like I don't if anything, if their defense wasn't just so horseshit, they would have been able to compete, honestly.
I think Cole Kmet only had 1 week last year that he was elite status, I believe, or
Yeah,
he
I
had
had
that
him in the
one massive game,
that
right? He
was the
scored like,
week that I should have won 30 grand.
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember, I remember. So it's uh, I like Cole Kmet still, definitely more than the average bear for sure. Because again, I know a lot of people aren't in on Cole Kmet, but I'm okay at his ADP. I still think he's good. And again,
Mhm.
the Bears situation at wide receiver, as we sit today, it's not really any better than than it was last year. They didn't really
Right.
show that the Chase Claypool was going to be the main guy. So, I think it's fine. And again, I'm only at 16% drafted of him.
So what do you think about the Bears moving pick 53 for Hopkins? You think that gets it done?
Pick
That's in
53. Yes,
that's in the second round.
I
That's what
do.
that's what they're looking for. Well, the problem is that I still feel like the Bears are going to trade back, and the Colts have pick 4 and pick I think 34. So like we need those two picks. I feel like before we make that move because our second round pick, which would have been pick 33, apparently is the
Chase Claypool.
equivalency of Chase Claypool. That's
Yeah, I bet you'd love to have that one back right now.
yeah, I
I,
would.
I I mean, listen, man, you don't got to talk to me about
Yeah.
your organization doing terrible trades. And I mean, do you remember a man called Albert Hainsworth?
Yeah, I remember Sean McVay. I remember Sean McVay too.
Uh, oh, I was talking about bad. Albert Hainsworth was, the $100 million man that never saw the field for Washington. So, there's that.
That's
I
just a smart
digress.
business move on his part.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean, if
Dan
you're going to
Snyder.
rip somebody off, I mean, you might as well do it right.
Yeah, you might as well do it to Dan Snyder.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy that pays for his team to lose games, yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think
God.
that's a pretty low hanging fruit target there. My last guy up here, kind of a shocker, Mr. Taysom Hill, ADP 143. Where I've been taking him are those drafts where I just kind of like muffed or punted the tight end position, or just like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And really, all I'm leaning on is prior year production. That's it. I mean, if you look at him, 141 fantasy points this past season, 120 for the prior season. I'm not saying that he's going to even stay in New Orleans. Obviously, this is a complete toss up type of pick. Like he could wind up getting cut. He could land somewhere on another team, not even be used at all. He thinks he's a quarterback, but in reality, he's a rugby player. Like, I don't know if he got the memo just yet, but he's a weapon when he's used, and I don't hate taking him at his ADP. I just don't feel that exposed to risk.
Hmm. So I haven't actually taken any of Taysom Hill yet. I'm a
Fair.
little worried about it because there's uncertainty as to how they're going to utilize him and if he stays, as you
Mhm.
alluded to in New Orleans. I think the upside for him though is there, and the big upside is what happens if the long dick of the law really comes down on Alvin Kamara and he's not there for the entire season, and they're
He
like, you
pled
know
no
what,
guilty.
we're
He
gonna
pled no
go.
guilty. So maybe he goes all in against it, and they're just like, you know what? We're sending you to prison for 5 years. You're done.
I mean, it's a possibility, right? If that happens, Taysom Hill might just get thrown into a running back position, and then you have a running back in your tight end slot. you break fantasy. So
Yeah,
it's a very good spot for him. And he's currently going 143.
Tight end 15.
That's not bad. So as we talk about it, I think I'm going to have to go ahead and add him to the portfolio, because now I can talk myself into something happening to Alvin Kamara and he becoming a running back. And again, I haven't drafted him yet because I was uncertain, but I think you have now.
What do you think about stacking those two? Stacking Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill then?
Yeah, that's not bad, because again, they're different positions on Underdog. So yeah, I mean, you could have one coexist with the other, or one be good without the other. So I like that strategy. I'm fine with that.
Right on. There you go, folks. Who is your last man up, and then we'll head over to quarterbacks.
Yeah, so my fifth tight end, currently drafted at 16%, tied with Cole Kmet, is Trey McBride. I think the Cardinals are going to completely suck, but he is one guy on there because, again, this is the second year. I think he's going to perform well due to the fact of he wants to show people that he's good. He wants to show that, he's going to eventually be deserving of a contract. Trey McBride's good. He's a motherfucking Mackey Award winner. I mean, he's a great tight end. He was the best in the nation 2 years ago. So I think he's a good tight end. I think it's a good value for him right now. Let me just look here. He's currently going at 182, which is 8 in front of Zach Ertz. There's my caveat to the McBride pro side of all this. The con is Zach Ertz, and what do we do with him? So I'd like to get your take on Zach Ertz.
The approach that I took drafting Trey McBride is I drafted Ertz as well. I took both of them in the same one. I only have one share of Trey McBride, but I also only have one share of Zach Ertz, and they're in the same draft. So, yeah. And I think in that one I have another 2 tight ends. So, like, don't use that approach and go with just like one other tight end. That's not a good idea. You're gonna have to buy 4, but at the ADP that you're getting Ertz and Trey McBride, like, you should be fine. If you get 2 decent guys and then you back those 2 up at the back end of your draft, I think that's pretty solid.
Over under 50% that Zach Ertz just retires this year.
Not going to happen.
No, you don't think?
No. I don't think I don't think that was his plan when coming to the Cardinals from the situation that the Eagles were in. I don't think that was the case.
Okay, interesting.
So I still think he wants to get it done there, and if not, then he would go on to another team. Like if anything, I think if he's not there, because I think that was one of the places he wanted to go, actually, I believe, because he had a no trade clause for the Eagles.
Mm-hmm. If nobody has caught on yet, both of us have, I believe, one tight end that we're actually drafting higher in drafts. Everything else is pretty low. Go with the strategy, great or late.
Yep.
Don't, a lot of the middle guys are not going to get there for you. So either take one of those elite guys or just wait till the very end. Not very end, but anywhere from 13 to 20, and then take 3 of those guys.
There are some situations at the end of the draft where you can literally wait for the last few picks. Like,
who's really interesting? We talked about Dalton Schultz, but we never talked about Jake Ferguson. That man is going almost undrafted most times, and he could potentially be the starting tight end for the Dallas Cowboys.
It's still the Dallas Cowboys, though. I feel like they'll get somebody. You know what I mean? Like, it's Jerry's world. I feel like they just break their cap to go get like Darren Waller. Like, that's who they are. That's what they do. They want to sell jerseys. They want to be a flashy team in offense, put butts in the seats. I mean, you have to. I mean, look at the place. I don't think they can afford an empty one. So the other example I was going to give was Jelani Woods and Mo Alley Cox. I don't know if I see them adding a tight end, and I feel like Jelani Woods could just be the starter there.
That's the guy for me too, Woods.
Yeah. We both talked about him. Great size, great profile, great build on the field. Like, he checks a lot of boxes that you want from a tight end. I think that we just need the usage, and I think for him coming in as a sophomore now, he'll have that experience, a full offseason, OTAs, all that, etc., playbook development. I think it's going to be his job, but I still feel like Mo Alley Cox will have a role. Like, he won't be completely off the leash. But he's definitely a nice late round target, and that's a late round stacking group that you can put together with having no commitment through like the first 4/5 of the draft. So I think that's a good situation to target super late. So is McBride and Ertz. Again, you got to be loading up elsewhere. Before we move over to the quarterbacks, you want to pay that last bill really quick?
Yep. So, as we are talking about Underdog Fantasy, we are also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is your home for off-season NFL best ball drafts, but they also got you covered for a ton of other daily games, including NBA, NHL, and the PGA. Underdog Fantasy is a great way to get down on your favorite player props if they're not available in your state. Head over to underdogfantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That underdogfantasy.com, promo code SGPN.
All right, we're back, and we are talking our most exposed quarterbacks on Underdog. Who is your first man up, Andrew?
It is my man, the guy who's going to lead the Commanders to the playoffs this year, Sam Howell. I have 38% drafted of him, and the reason being is because
38%. That's a lot.
That is a lot. Yes.
How many entries is that? 7 of 18?
Yes.
You like that?
Wow,
math,
good math. Look at you.
I'm
big
just
brain.
kidding. I just did that on the gun there with the I have 29.4% with my first guy, so I just little quick math there.
You just did the math literally. So it's Sam Howell for a couple reasons. One, he's going really late. He's going way after a majority of these guys, right?
You're crazy, man.
And obviously I'm drafting Terry McLaurin, my man Terry. I'm drafting Jahan Dotson. Shout out Penn State. Like, there's just the pieces are there. They're not expensive. Sam Howell's going almost undrafted half the time.
Okay, pal.
What?
You're just telling me, like, it's just funny how you're surrounded by all the commando stuff around you, and then you're just like and this guy, but Terry McLaurin's a generational wide receiver.
I mean, hey, you said it, not me. I'll agree though.
No, I agree with I agree that a lot of these guys should be targeted. Like, all these guys, other than Sam Howell. Like, it's just tough for me. Like, I still feel like they're gonna go shopping. Ron Rivera's trying to tell you. He's trying to tell you that don't act so fast in these drafts, Andrew. I don't know if I'm done shopping yet. I haven't even gone to the market.
I mean, even if they shop, it doesn't mean that they're going to essentially throw him. I mean, look what they just did with Sam Howell, and their quarterback room was a mess. Carson Wentz, which Ron Rivera had his dick hard for whatever reason, completely hated that move. They had Taylor Heineke, which, the legend of Heineke lives on. I like Heineke a lot.
But look what happened to Heineke. There's no loyalty there, buddy. There is no loyalty.
You're not wrong. I just think that what Sam Howell did in the small sample size last year at least opened the door for him to have some sort of role. I think he starts off the year no matter what as the quarterback. I really do. Now, does he keep it the entire year? I don't know. But at his cost right now, which is, hold on, let me see if I can scroll that far down the board. Sam Howell's currently going 174. When I was drafting him early in these drafts, he was going later than that. It's cost you almost nothing. And with the upside that the offense has compared to dudes around him, and I'm going to read a couple here because I feel that there's a little shade being thrown currently my way about Howell here. So let me just ask you about these couple guys. Let's do Howell versus, let's play that quick game.
Go ahead.
Howell versus Jimmy G.
Jimmy G.
Okay. You're already just asinine here. Sam Howell versus Will Levis.
Sam Howell.
Okay. Sam Howell versus Ryan Tannehill.
Sam Howell.
Sam Howell versus Anthony Richardson.
That's very close. Right now, today, it's not Richardson. I feel like that will change after April.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yep. I'm going to give you two more that are realistically a Sam Howell versus. So Sam Howell versus Jordan Love.
Sam Howell.
Okay. And then Sam Howell versus Mac Jones.
I'm with you. Like, I want to say listen. I want to say Sam Howell, but I'm reluctant because I'm someone that, like, I lost a fantasy championship 2 seasons ago because of Mac Jones. Like, I'm not saying I'm not saying he's good. This isn't me saying, like, oh yeah, Mac Jones is great, draft him at the end of your drafts, etc. Like, I have no co-assignment of him whatsoever, but I just feel like with the right pieces, he could be sneaky good, just as good as a potential Sam Howell, with the right dominoes that fall, right? So I think those two are still pretty even. We've seen a lot of tape on Mac Jones. My argument is, and believe me, I have a risky guy in my top 5 exposure that we'll get to here in a moment. And I will move right to him after this, so we keep the risk factor high here. But now I don't argue with folks that are taking players for free. Like, if you're getting him in round 19 or 20, by all means. But I think when we did our last draft with the boss men, I should say.
Yeah, 14, I think.
I think it was like 14 or 15.
Yeah,
like,
it was high up there. He took him early.
That's too soon. That's too soon. I'm never opposed to anyone taking a shot at the end of the draft. And, especially if you have those stacks, like if that draft in particular, you have Dotson, you have McLaurin, you have the running backs that have very, very favorable ADP right now. They're going at a bargain in Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. And, we saw the video of, Howell and Bieniemy, dabbing up, having a good time. Told him his arm looked great. I didn't actually understand that, but whatever. Is that what he said? Like, your arm looks great?
Yeah.
I love the arm.
Yeah, something like that. He's
Some weird.
Yeah,
weird.
He was juicing him up a little bit.
Yeah. No, I don't hate that, but it still feels like, and this is a segue into my pick, it still feels like it's more likely that some of these other questionable quarterbacks could still be a starter week one over a Sam Howell. And so for example, if you guys went out and got Jameis Winston, not to commit to him, but to compete, like, we'll bring in Jameis Winston, we'll have him compete against Sam Howell. It feels like a job that Sam Howell could win. That feels like a competition he could win, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's not ready. And we ride with someone like this that has a little bit more NFL experience with a super short leash.
Yeah, no. And again, like, I don't disagree with you. I just, he's going for, as you said, almost free. And do you agree that the quarterbacks that have the most upside tend to be running quarterbacks?
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to you about this before. I'm not the biggest advocate of running quarterbacks because they are tougher to predict.
Except for your team has a really good one.
No, it's still tough because, man, if you saw some of the licks that Justin Fields has taken, it's like every other player sitting there. Like, if you're a fan or a fantasy owner, I guess even, you're just like, you can't keep your hand off of your mouth. You're just constantly like in this like shock and awe. Like, is he fine? Is he fine? God, this kid is so fucking slow to get up. Like, he is the biggest, like, I'm a little hurt. Oh, did you hear that crack? Okay, I'm fine. And then he gets up. But it's just like, dude, why are you laying on the ground for so long? Stop that. It makes me really upset. But the consistency is hard to predict because, yeah, if they run like a running back, well, you see what happens to running backs. One hit, one twist, they're out of there, right? Yeah. So you expose yourself to more potential injury upside. The guys that I really lean into are the rocket arms, the Josh Allens, the Joe Burrows, the Patrick Mahomes.
But Josh Allen runs.
Josh Allen does run. He's the unicorn. He's the unicorn. He runs and passes. Well, I mean, someone else that does that. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a good runner, but he's not a run first guy.
Yeah. To just finish my thought here on how and why I like him so late is, again, he showed last year in the small sample size that he can run. The only other guy that's really in a running position that could be drafted is Anthony Richardson. All those other guys going around him Marcus Mariota. Statues. Okay, with the Marcus Mariota, we didn't even talk about him.
He runs. He runs.
You're right. Yeah. He runs off of teams, and nobody wants him. But how at least can run. So again, upside going really late in the draft.
Absolutely. So we'll segue to mine because when I was getting him for free. And again, not a popular name, not a popular pick. We're going with Carson Wentz. He's not number one. I'm just moving over to like the high risk. He is number 4 on my list. He has 3 shares out of 17, and he's at 17%. And it's just the same argument. If you're getting him in round 20 and he's going to be a starter, what's the problem? Don't buy the newspaper version of Carson Wentz. Buy the fantasy football version. And 2 years ago, he was great. In fantasy, he was absolutely fantastic. This past season, he was bad in every which way possible. For his team, for fantasy, he regressed immensely from 265 fantasy points to 121. If I get anything from 225 to 270, that's free money, in my opinion. Is there any argument to that?
No, I'm just not of the thought process of I'm going to draft a guy right now that's not on a team.
Sure.
I don't personally like to do that. I don't have an issue with it either, though.
But we are drafting players that we know will not be on the same team that they're on now. We are doing that.
Yeah, I'm just not sure Carson Wentz is going to be on a team as a starter. I could he be a backup somewhere? Maybe, but he sure as hell didn't give himself a good resume last year.
The top odds include 3 teams that have a quarterback ahead of them. The top odds. It's the Panthers and the Bucks. So those are available quarterback positions. And then the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Cardinals, who obviously all have quarterbacks. I just can't imagine that he's going to try to go somewhere to try and win a ring. That's not how he'll get paid moving forward. I just don't understand. I don't think that he's going to bet on himself to not be a starter in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the XFL is calling him. I mean,
they might be. I mean, yeah, it's nice to go put up some stats, but I can't think that Carson Wentz is like, oh yeah, I want to make the same amount of money as Ben DiNucci. These game checks that these dudes get are absolutely ridiculous. Can you imagine getting the game check of a quarterback? Like, oh, yep, this Sunday I'm just picking up, like a couple million, no big deal.
I mean, I don't think Carson Wentz is in that position.
Well, whatever. I mean, every Sunday you get your game check if you play. That's what I'm saying. Like his is going to be a lot bigger than a lot of other players because he's a quarterback. I don't see any reason why he's going to try and just hang it up. So
yep.
If he wants to be, cathartic and try to win a ship, and it's not like Jameis Winston did it. We saw Mitch Trubisky do it, but I still think that what we've seen from Carson Wentz when he's been healthy has been better than those guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't have a disagreement with you. I think I just got a little bit of bad taste in my mouth with Carson Wentz last year and how he just completely fucked it up for us.
Of course you do.
So, yeah, I'm not a fan of drafting a guy that's not on a team currently right now. But again, I'm not going to argue with you about it because Carson Wentz is fine. And you make a good point that he is better than probably some of these other guys, Kyle Trask and them, right? So could he end up somewhere? Yeah. Are you trying to make these like I'm doing with Lamar Jackson, Kyle Pitts, these hopeful stacks? No. Okay.
No, not at all. Because again, I'm just getting him for free. I'm just getting him with the last pick. I'm just taking the best players ahead of him because, in fact, I think most of those drafts I just did 2 quarterbacks.
Okay.
Because just so I can just expose myself to the most skill positions as possible.
Okay.
Who's your next man up?
Next man up, and there's no coincidence that he is 22% drafted for me, is Lamar Jackson. He lines up perfectly with my 22% of Kyle Pitts.
There you go.
Do I think he really goes to Atlanta? I think it's probably less than a 30% chance, but that's still a chance. Mm-hmm. Even if he's on Baltimore again, he's Lamar Jackson. He's going to run the ball. I think he's fine either one of those positions. I do think if he stays in Baltimore, again, he's going to be, that Rodgers-esque list and say, listen, get me some people who can catch the effing ball. And and make sure I'm standing upright, behind these offensive linemen. I think that those are going to be his 2 biggest things. I mean, any pushback there on Lamar Jackson and my thought process on him?
No, I mean, I think he's going to be back with the Ravens. I think if anything, they'll probably franchise tag him. If not, I mean, if he goes to an offense, I have to imagine that we're all going to be excited about the potential to him just to be better. Most likely, he'll go somewhere with better weapons, better receivers, a better running back, most likely. So I think that once those dominoes fall, whether he's staying or going, I think we'll be excited. And maybe even if he stays, we get a little bit better value on his ADP. Maybe people won't be as high on him because he doesn't have those weapons around him still, and he just has to lean on Mark Andrews. It'll be interesting to see what they do in the draft, but I feel like he's going to wind up getting tagged. I feel like the Ravens are not doing him any favors in the negotiation room.
Okay.
My next man up is my top guy, Kirk Cousins. He is 29%.
You like that?
I like that. I like that. I like the ADP. I mean, 95 QB 11. You're getting a pretty good value on him. And as you got a front row seat to in our last draft with the Boss Men, super easy to stack. I was able to grab Cousins, Dalvin Cook. That may not be panning out so well. Justin Jefferson. I did grab a share of Adam Thielen in that one, and TJ Hawkinson. The Vikings are very favorable for the ADPs for stacking purposes. And that's really just how I started drafting Cousins was, I got a share of JJ. I got my first 101 pick. So it doesn't hurt to take his quarterback, right? It's best ball after all. And that's just really how it all started. And then, I was grabbing him as like my second quarterback in some situations where I was getting guys like Hurts and Mahomes. So it's just a pass heavy offense. Kirk Cousins, he's not Mr. Consistent by any means, but it's best ball. That's why he's a great player in this type of format. You're only getting his best weeks. You don't have to worry about when he's actually bad. So I'm pretty comfortable with him. Very similar production back-to-back years, 307 to 305 fantasy points. Pretty consistent. That was while also doubling his interceptions. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think you perfectly explained him as Mr. Consistent. As a guy who came from Washington, I saw what he is. He's steady Eddie, average Joe. He's not going to go put up 400 plus fantasy points like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen could. But he's also not going to just, live in the cellar and give you 180 either. Like he's going to live in that 300 spot. I think it's fine where he's going. He does have a negative delta as I'm looking at some of these. He's 10 spots higher than they think he should be.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, again, like you made the case. He's very easy to stack. And
10
that's
spots higher than he should be. In which QB ranking or total ranking?
total ranking. Total ranking, he is ranked, or his ADP is 95.8. They
Right.
have him ranked as player 106. So not for quarterbacks, just
Interesting.
in
Interesting.
totality.
Interesting. Okay. I may have to check out. I'll be interested to check out the board again when I do my next draft and just kind of see who, is in that mix, who could potentially be ahead of him.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I said, very good situation, prolific passing offense. You have the best receiver right now in football on your roster paired with him. I think that's the best way to, roster Kirk Cousins in best ball. If you get the 101, you have to be targeting Kirk Cousins. I mean, that's just, again, expected. You're drafting Justin Jefferson 101, but that's, the majority of the public. And I don't know if anyone is, a D-gen like us and doing 15 plus drafts already, before free agencies even started. So,
yeah.
All right. Who's your next man up?
Next man up, Anthony Richardson. I'm
Okay,
16% drafted. Again, I'm a guy that I like to take one guy early-ish
Mhm.
and then wait a while and then take two towards the later, part of the drafts. So, some of these guys are going to do that. And Anthony Richardson, I like his profile. He runs the ball very well. He's very dynamic. I think he could go to one of these teams that have good playmakers, i.e. the Falcons, maybe the Panthers, somewhere
Yeah.
in there. If that happens, I feel like his current ADP and value, is currently underrated and undervalued. So I like taking him there. Again, I don't have too much to say on him because we have no idea where he's going. I just like his
Mhm.
profile and what he brings to the table.
What do you think about him potentially going to the Texans, maybe jumping
I'd be
Bryce
okay with
Young?
that too. I'm okay with that as well. I like Nico Collins, John Mechie, good
Mhm.
profile from college. Unfortunately, again last year with the bout of cancer,
Mhm.
he didn't get to see the field, but he is coming back, and they're going to get rid of Brandon Cooks, and I expect them to bring somebody else in. I don't know if it's going to be a veteran. It might be somebody they draft, but the Texans have some capital, and I'm okay with that if he would go there.
The running joke has been, some guy goes back to his prior team. Do they have the cap?
DeAndre.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do they have enough cap to get DeAndre?
I think they do, and that would be hilarious.
No, that's not. That's just not gonna happen. That would
I
be
don't think so
so
either,
funny.
but it would be funny.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious, but yeah, definitely not going to happen.
No,
No, they
he's
should
going to the
definitely be
Bears.
buyers. I mean, it feels like that could be how it goes. CJ Stroud to the Colts after the trade. Texans grab Richardson. There's been the complaints about Bryce Young's size and accuracy. Like he may not. I don't think he's going to be throwing or participating at the combine for Bryce Young. So going to be interesting to see how everything unfolds here. Obviously, we're still a ways off of the NFL draft, but I don't hate it. I took Richardson, I think, in our very first draft that you and I did together live with the last pick. And right now that we've only heard like better things about him, since then, since we've
Yep.
been going forward. So
Right.
I don't hate that whatsoever. My next man up is Mr. Dak Prescott, another non-favorite of yours. $40 out of 170, 23.5% rostered. Just feels like someone that can easily be, a top 5 QB given the right situation. Had 330 fantasy points 2 years ago, 213 this past season. So a bit of regression there, but still coming off the board at QB9 may not be a positive delta score there for you. You'll have to let me know, but I feel like he can bounce back from, a lower year, 213 fantasy points. I think he definitely fits the mold to go back over 300 again. I'm a big advocate of CeeDee Lamb. I think the offense is going to get better. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the running back position. They've talked about drafting a guy. They've talked about letting Tony Pollard walk, tagging Tony Pollard, restructuring Zeke, not moving Zeke. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty there. But what I do like a lot of is some Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb action.
Dak Prescott this year moved himself from my hate category to not like category because any man that wins me a bet for
Mm-hmm.
throwing the most interceptions while also missing time is okay in my book. So I just no longer just don't like him. I do think the stacks though are favorable as far as the ADPs to stack with him. His
Mm-hmm.
current delta is actually it is negative, but it's only negative 0.7. He is going at ADP 81.3 with a
So
ranking of 82. So he's right
pretty
on target
appropriate.
of yep, exactly. So you're not overpaying for him. You're not getting him at a great value. He's fine there. And again, I don't have much to say about the Dak and the Cowboys because again, I have a bias against them. But I do think that Dak is a decent quarterback. I worry that McCarthy just fucks everything up all the time as he does. So that's
Mhm.
always a concern. But CeeDee Lamb is a very good wide receiver. And that's always nice to be able to have when you're pairing anything with a quarterback. So I'm okay with you taking Dak as much as you are.
It feels like they're going to be a pass first type of offense. I'm just not sure what they're going to do with Tony Pollard coming back from injury, Zeke being another year older. They're going to try to restructure his contract. He'll probably be there, but I just don't see those guys or even a rookie coming in and demanding the bulk share of the offense. I think it's going to be a pass first team.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your next man up?
Next man up is Mr. Massage himself, Deshaun Watson. Again, this is solely on stacks. I've taken
Yep.
Njoku or Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Those are guys that I have a decent amount of exposure from because
Mm-hmm.
I think again Deshaun Watson was fine before everything happened. Then last year he was suspended, came back, looked like dog shit. I think we're getting him. I think we're getting him at a discount a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If he makes some plays in the preseason or in the offseason, there's some videos of him going wild, his ADP is going to rise. So I think that's currently a good value. And honestly, I'm just doing it for the stacking purposes. I don't think
Yep.
he's going to be tremendous, but as a guy who runs the ball and ran the ball efficiently on his last team, I think that that's something that he could also do as well: scramble, make plays. And I just think with other guys that are going around him, he holds a decent value.
I have done a Cleveland Browns build where I was able to get Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, and Dearness Johnson, Amari Cooper, DPJ, and David Njoku. Probably add a weapon in there that might get a little bit muddied, but I do believe that they are going to let Kareem Hunt walk. No reason to give him a payday, and I think Dearness Johnson could bump up to that RB2 role. So I've done at least one team build for the Browns. I don't hate it, but he is not someone that I've targeted with immense value. I think I do just have the one share and build. No, I do have. I have two. I have two. I don't believe the second one was. I only did one like full build like that. I think the other one probably just has Amari Cooper. And you know me, I'm not an Amari Cooper guy. So like that type of build is just kind of contrarian to my beliefs, right? Like, oh, I believe this. Let's just go completely opposite. Let's just go, what's that world? The opposite world of Superman. It's gonna drive me nuts. Jerry
Honestly,
Seinfeld brings it up all the time.
I'm not a big like superhero guy, so yeah, you're barking up the wrong tree asking me.
Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld referenced it all the time. Can't remember. It's gonna drive me nuts.
I'm more
There's
of
the
a
episode.
villain guy.
Oh yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah, we'll be getting to that soon. No, I think he'll be fine. I like the offense. I think that they do add another receiver. I think Deshaun Watson's going to offer some positive return at that ADP for sure.
Yep.
My next man up, Justin Herbert. Little bit of uncertainty, it feels like, with the Chargers. There was the talk that Keenan Allen could be a cap casualty, Gerald Everett. You always know that Austin Eckler is going to be there, which is a great thing because he's just going to continuously move the chains, be an option in the passing game. It really just gives you that fighting chance to just keep drives alive. And, getting close to that is a very good thing. So when I've drafted Austin Eckler, I've tried to get as much Justin Herbert as possible. It's tough to stack with Herbert because he is someone that just kind of loves to distribute the ball. Like he gets everybody the ball. We saw DeAndre Carter be relevant at times. Josh Palmer, Allen, Mike Williams, of course, Eckler. He likes to divvy it up, but I still like stacking him with Mike Williams. I don't think the ADP is too expensive. It's a lot more expensive than the value guys. He's at QB7 coming off the board at ADP 49. He did actually regress a bit this past year from 2 years ago. Rookie season 2021, 395 fantasy points, just 290 this past season. But obviously the team was dealing with injuries. They were running the ball a little bit more because of that. I feel like he can bounce back. I feel like he can have outperform last season's production for sure. And I feel like this team also could be a buyer at the skill position if they want to go ahead and get a cheaper, maybe like a veteran receiver or, add another running back or tight end. So we'll see what happens there. But I think that what we've seen from Herbert, skill wise and skill set and just the, pass first concept of the offense, we should feel pretty comfortable with him going forward.
Yeah, I think he's fine going where he is. And I wanted to say this for Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has a positive delta, currently ADP 84. He's going at 83, so that's it's actually a 1.4 positive delta. Herbert surprisingly has a negative 8.9 delta, currently going 49, rank of 58. I'm actually okay with Herbert where he's going. Despite what the delta is saying, Herbert has all the talent in the world. The Chargers always just fuck it up for him. It just seems like everything just goes wrong for the Chargers, right? The Chargers charge, right? We make them a verb. So I see the value in Herbert. I see the playmaking ability he has along with the playmakers that are surrounded around him. So I am okay with that. And honestly, I mean, like you alluded to, they're probably going to add somebody, which will make him even better. Austin Eckler's not going anywhere and isn't any worse than he was last year as well. And that's a guy that Herbert can lean on. So I think Herbert is a good value there, despite what the Delta says.
Again, especially if you draft Austin Eckler, Herbert at his ADP is a very good buy.
Yes.
Who is your last guy up?
Last guy up, Jalen Hurts. This one is a guy that I'm okay taking, as they say, naked of, where I don't feel the need to stack him because he's the first guy that, or no, I'm sorry, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith both go before Hurts. But if I have one of them, I definitely like to try to get Hurts. If not, I'm still okay taking him if he falls a little bit. I've only drafted him 3 times, so 16%. I think I've only drafted him. I think I've drafted him twice where he's naked in my build. I have nothing to stack with him outside of Brown, Smith, and Goddard. The other guy that I'm okay stacking with is Gainwell. I don't really want to stack Sanders if I don't have to because I don't think he's still there. But I'm not chasing any of these Quez walk-in dudes. I think all of them are replaced, and I don't think the guy that's going to be the third guy is there yet. So I'm not trying to do anything at the end of the draft to kind of stack outside of Gainwell. Gainwell's the last guy. Hurts. I mean, what can you say about him? Every year his passing has gotten better. They're rushing the shit out of the ball. They're like almost perfection on quarterback sneaks. I know that's only 1 or 2 yards at a time, but those touchdowns, a lot of those touchdowns came in, with that play as well. So I think Hurts is a fine value at where he's going due to the fact that he's a running quarterback. He has a good offense. Everybody's coming back except for the offensive coordinator. That's a little bit of a concern. How do you feel about that when a top tier guy is going this high in drafts and his offensive coordinator leaves? Does that really scare you off of him, or is it kind of like, eh?
Are you scared about drafting Patrick Mahomes because Matt Nagy's calling plays over Eric Bieniemy? No.
I mean, Matt Nagy was not good.
No, we're not worried about that. Yeah, I mean, Matt Nagy gets a bad rap. I'm not a fan whatsoever. I don't have nice things to say about him, but there was a reason.
15 minutes away from me, by the way.
Sorry,
in Manheim, Pennsylvania.
Sorry to hear about that. He won Coach of the Year his first year with the Bears. I mean, he had a good plan, but when he was good with the Bears that first season, like every single thing went right. Mitch Trubisky played to his ceiling, Tariq Cohen, Montgomery, Allen Robinson, etc. Like the team was amazing. Everybody played to their potential. I think that was when we had made the deal for Khalil Mack as well. Like everybody was playing up to their potential, if not higher than that. He did not have that after that. He had regression and injuries all around him. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but he has good weapons. Like I think it'll be fun to figure things out. You know what I mean with Patrick Mahomes and company. I'm not worried whatsoever. Like it's not like they're just gonna suddenly stop going for it on 4th down, on 4th and 1, and that just like money play that they have where Hurts just moves the whole line forward, or maybe the whole line moves the line forward, but you know what I mean? Like he just goes in there, first down. Big reason why I like him, just keeps drives alive with his legs, with his dual ability, being able to run and pass. And honestly, to the stacking point, like there's opportunities everywhere. Like I actually don't hate taking Quez Watkins late because it's just good best ball player. Like there will be at least a couple of weeks where he gets up wide receiver 1 numbers.
If he's still with the team, I don't think he's going to be, which is why I'm not taking him.
Is he going to be not brought back? Is he at the last year of his rookie contract?
I just think he's let go. I mean, he didn't look very good, and he had that. I really think he lost favor when he dropped that ball in the Super Bowl. That he should have caught that. And I honestly think that our boss Sean mentioned that on a podcast, and it got me thinking. I'm like, damn, you know what? That's right. I mean, he's obviously in touch.
That's also Sean losing a Super Bowl. I'll take that with a grain of salt. Like we're cutting him. He's off the team.
Yeah,
Eddie Pinheiro, get him out of here.
Yeah, and okay, so think back to week 9 when they played the Commanders, right? And they lost to the Commanders. Quez Watkins caught the ball, fell down, and fumbled the ball. Like, he just had too many errors. I just don't think he's back with the team, so I'm not drafting him. If somebody wants to, that's completely
They might
fine.
tr- they might trade him, but I don't know if they would cut him on a rookie
I
contract
just don't think
still.
he's the third guy on the team, the third wide receiver. I think it's going to be somebody
Sure,
else.
sure. But still, Dallas Goedert, favorable
Yep.
ADP. We already talked about that. Devontae Smith, if you do miss on AJ Brown, if you draft either one first, you're definitely going to stack them. Like, that will
Try,
happen.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. Like, if they're there and they're available, you're going to do it. Like, you're not going to turn it away unless it's your first best ball draft. And that's why we're here, to notify you not to do that. If you draft AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts is on the clock for your next pick, you draft Jalen Hurts, or vice versa. If you don't know what that means, it's dictionary time. All right, my last guy up here, I'm going to do it with a quick tie, just two guys, Brock Purdy and Trevor Lawrence, one relevant, one not so relevant. Trevor Lawrence should have a pretty strong season, expected with the weapons that are going to be available around him. They're bringing back Evan Ingram. We got Calvin Ridley coming up into the mix, another year with Christian Kirk. That connection looks super strong year one, and another year with ETN also in the lineup. Obviously, Lawrence and ETN still have a very good relationship. I know that we were kind of dogging the lack of loyalty potentially from the new, era of coaching and GM. But at the same time, Lawrence and ETN, very close, good buddies. I got to imagine the quarterback's going to go to bat for him. Like him at his ADP, again, the Jags have a very nice stacking ability and team build ability. You can get Lawrence late. You can even draft Christian Kirk after Calvin Ridley. That's a great value that you can stack up with him. Evan Ingram late, probably going to go a round or two up now, with the tag in place, having a little bit more concrete idea of his value and where he's going to be this year. And then with Brock Purdy, it's just a shot in the dark. He looked like the best quarterback with the San Francisco 49ers this past season. There's been varied timelines on his return. It could be week 1. It could be training camp. It could be the first couple of weeks into the season. I'm still under the belief that they either keep Trey Lance on a very short leash, or Brock Purdy is back and he's ready to start week 1. I think at the ADP, it's a very, very good opportunity.
Yeah. Man, I don't really have too much else to say outside of what you did. I really like Lawrence this year, though. I do want to make that known. I think Lawrence, I think this, again, like, I'm not a big ETN guy because currently ADP and all of that. I think it's going to fall a little bit, but I think Lawrence takes another step forward as a passer. I really do. He has all the weapons to do it. Evan Ingram, Kirk, Ridley. I mean, they're all good football players. So I like him a ton. And yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I don't got too much else to add there. I think that both of those guys are good values at where they're currently going.
Awesome. Good stuff. That is all the time that we have for today. Do you have anything to share before we head out?
No. Again, if you haven't signed up for Underdog, I don't know what you're doing. Get in the best ball streets with us. It's a fucking great time, and use promo code SGPN.
Yep. Also, be sure to hit up the merch store. Use that promo code Madness. First half unders. They are cashing the tickets already. The merch store, responsible for profits. I love it. Absolutely love it. You can find me on Twitter at SGPNJB. You can find Andrew on Twitter at ARAUB23. That's ARAUB23. Take care. Be well. Be good. And if you can't be good at it. We'll see you.